45 years, zero name changes, new offices, more staff, improved technology to better serve you. Education, services, investments. Think real estate, think Marshall Reddick. Brokerage, property management, private lending, creating financial independence through real estate since 1979.
All right, everybody, we're going to jump right in here. Thank you all so much for logging on this evening. It's always super great when we see some of our clients, both pre-existing and new faces on here. We put a lot of effort and time into researching everything and putting it all together to present to you. So we're super excited to have you on for our presentation this evening. My name is Tasso Spathos, and I'm accompanied this evening by my colleague and good friend Clayton Hines. And tonight we have an exciting presentation on our new builder listings in Franklin, Tennessee, the Avondale Cottages. So Clayton is going to take time to go over the Avondale community in depth, but here are a couple of just important bullet points that will kind of get you a foot in the door as to these communities and the reason they're so special and the reason they look so good and why we're putting them in front of you guys today. So I was just in Tennessee last week. I was there from the 14th to the 20th with our Vice President of Sales, Scott Pastel. I was hanging out with Clayton and a lot of our Tennessee team, and it was just wonderful to be there, boots on the ground. You really take a lot away from being there and walking the communities in person, and it was just great to be around the team. So I personally was there, and it was a pleasure to see all of this in person, and it was really exciting. So, when we were driving through the neighborhoods on our way to downtown from Avondale and vice versa, leaving from downtown to Avondale, we were doing a bunch of back and forth. We were going through the single family homes in and around this community, and I was super surprised to see just how, these homes for sale around Avondale and outside of Franklin were in the $2-3 million price point. Beautiful homes in just such a nice area, children riding their bikes. And you could tell it was just a neighborhood that people wanted to be a part of. So coming out of that, before I visited Tennessee, we were looking at all of the pro formas on these. If some of you are familiar with, if you work with Vince or Cameron or myself, going over the pro formas and reviewing the numbers on these, when we're actually in person looking at them, it's super cool to tie them all together. So, a couple quick points here that we included on the first slide are that this community has direct access to downtown Franklin, right? So it's just a street away. It's about a 7 to 10 minute car ride just right over. So it's very quick, but it's a convenient ride, right? So the community itself is made up of luxury 2 to 4 bedroom townhomes, and they're very spacious when you get inside. So later down in the slide, we're going to have some really good HD photos for you guys to review. But they're essentially made up of a couple of different models that Clayton will go over, basically between 2 to 4 bedrooms. So we'll kind of hop into that. And it's located next to some of Tennessee's top rated school districts, right? A little bit about myself. My name is Tasso Spathos. I've been a licensed realtor since 2018. I received my bachelor's of business administration from Cal State University, Long Beach. I have 2 years of direct property management experience with the company before I transitioned over to full-time advisor. Really got into the day-to-day of property management. I am a student pilot. I'm a Husky owner, and I love to play basketball. I have completed real estate transactions in California, Texas, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and I invest here at our Marshall Reddick Mortgage Fund.
Hey, Tasso, sorry to interrupt you. You may want to hit that presentation button. It's still showing, at least on my end, the first slide. Maybe it's showing up. There we go. Now it's moving for me.
How are we looking now, Clayton? Can you see that?
Yeah, a little better. Just wanted to make sure everybody's seeing it properly.
You know what we might have to do here? Let's see. Because we're getting a little bit of lag on my end, I might have to change this up just a sec. Okay.
No, that's perfect. Would rather get through the technical hiccup here early on, and you can kind of see the difference here from sunny California in the background to nighttime in Tennessee. Yes, now we can see the full screen on the Tasso slide. Perfect.
Thank you, Clayton. So yeah, licensed realtor 2018, received my bachelor's, Cal State University, Long Beach, property management experience. Again, student pilot, Husky owner, love to play basketball, and have a good background in all of our markets. And I do invest in our Marshall Reddick Mortgage Fund. So some of you may be new here today. To go a little bit into Marshall Reddick and what we are essentially a full service real estate firm, and we have 4 divisions within our company. The first division is our real estate brokerage. We help people buy and sell their primary homes as well as investment property. And nationwide, we did around 600 transactions just last year, about 90% of which were investment transactions that we also manage, which brings us into our second division, and that's our property management team. So we take care of everything for the landlord, from leasing to maintenance, renovations, rent collections, and essentially the whole 9 yards, so that all the landlord needs to do is collect a rent check every month. Our third division is our private money lending. So sometimes you can't qualify for conventional financing and you need private financing. So Marshall Reddick provides non-owner occupied recourse loans to borrowers doing fix and flips, buying new construction, or even purchasing investment property. And then our fourth division is our mortgage fund, kind of like I mentioned on the slide that I was describing. Myself, I am personally invested in the mortgage fund. So the same way you can own real estate and collect rent checks, you can essentially invest in the mortgage fund and collect mortgage payments. So really cool way for some of our investors to diversify into a more cash on cash return. A lot of the clients that we work with to buy investment property out of state might hit us up down the line and say, hey, we want a creative way to get into Marshall Reddick and continue investing, and we'll present them the mortgage fund. It's been consistently delivering about 8.5% to 9% annual returns, which is really great. So Marshall Reddick is in these locations here. I'm broadcasting live from our Newport Beach office. As you can see, bright and sunny outside. Clayton's a little bit darker, so we got that 2-hour time difference, but it's so cool to be able to work with Clayton despite that. I have clients in Nashville, and he works with some clients out of California, and we team up on a lot of stuff, so it's been great. We just recently moved LA offices and expanded out there due to a large amount of new properties coming onto management in Los Angeles, so super exciting stuff. That's up in Pasadena. Over in Texas, we have a couple of offices. We have our San Antonio office, our New Braunfels office. Our 2 newest offices are in Dallas and Houston. I have not seen those yet, but I'm excited to get out there hopefully sometime next year. I just got back from Tennessee, like I discussed before, so hoping to take some time to go see those. Those will be great. And then we have in Florida, our Cape Coral office. And then topic of discussion today over in Tennessee, we have our Clarksville office and our brand new Nashville office, where essentially a lot of the Avondale community, work will be taking place out of. So Tennessee, we are in Nashville and Clarksville.
Yeah, and as you go to the next slide, just for anybody who's familiar with the Nashville area, we just moved from downtown Nashville on West End down to Brentwood recently. So kind of right in between Nashville and Franklin, that we'll be talking about a little later on. But don't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No, totally. Thanks, Clayton. So we're not in these markets by accident. We have a very important strategy when selecting a market, and they really must meet all of these characteristics here. So the market needs to have a good job market, meaning the place in which we're looking to buy real estate must have stable employment, with unemployment being under the national average, number one. It must have low vacancy rate. There needs to be a strong rental demand for housing. It's one thing finding properties on Zillow or anywhere that have maybe a low purchase price, but will we be able to rent them after you purchase it, right? So we need to make sure that the area has a low vacancy rate. We need to look for economic diversity. The market can't be reliant upon one employer. We want several sectors in the area. We want government, education, for example, manufacturing, tech, healthcare, military, so on. We want to be able to ensure that it's not dependent on just one job market, and if that fails, there's no structure to that market as far as money coming in, money coming out. right? So homes do need to be affordable. We see that in markets like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. We have a little bit of a harder time here in California, a little bit pricier in that regard, right? And the states need to be landlord friendly. Laws that favor the landlord opposed to the tenant. We need to make sure that the markets have strong education, because those turn into white collar jobs that will give us a great base for stable tenants, higher salaries, and it gives us the ability to increase rents. And then we want property management that is reliable. You don't want to depend on just one mom and pop shop running a big monopoly on the market. We want to make sure that the consumer and the person looking to buy investment property has a lot of options if they're investing from a state, say like California or New York or Florida, or if they're in Tennessee investing in some of the other markets. You want to be able to hop on Yelp and pull up the reviews and call an interview to make sure that you're getting the best possible option. So I'm gonna go over just this briefly, and then I'm gonna have Clayton kind of discuss a little bit more about how these pins have been adding up a little bit. But the Avondale community, Clayton, if I'm not mistaken, is here in Franklin, Tennessee, just a little bit southwest of Nashville.
You got it. Spot on.
And our office, I did this driving last week when I was there, but can you help navigate me to where our office is in accordance to Franklin?
Yeah, it's a little tough. Obviously, that top left little quadrant there has got an office up in Clarksville that's covered in property management pins, but the Brentwood office that's a little closer, you can kind of see the word Brent right there and then a couple pins right behind it. They're basically right in that little location just north of where it says Franklin on your map.
Perfect.
Yeah. Right there, right off the interstate on I-65, which is the highway that goes north and south through Nashville.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really cool. So these pins are the properties that we currently have under management. So this has expanded as time has gone on, whether we help a client purchase an investment property and then turn around and put it under management, or we get a call to the owner line that, essentially comes into one of our advisors. We vet and screen the owner, go over the property with them, sign them on for management. This has expanded over time, and we're excited to continue doing so. These are exciting. These were photos taken at last year's Christmas party. At the top left, we have our Texas office over in New Braunfels. On the top right, we have our San Antonio team. On the bottom left, we have Florida. In the middle is our Newport Beach team. That's a little bit of a larger team. We have our private lending there and some of our accountants. And then on the bottom right is our Tennessee team. So guys, a little bit of a summary of what we're going to be going over today. Topics we're going to be covering are Franklin, Tennessee, right? The premier suburb of Nashville. Clayton's going to hop into what that means. Exclusive opportunities brought to you by Marshall Reddick for the investor. We're going to go through your Tennessee team in the office. It's one thing to identify investment opportunities like this, but who is actually turning around and managing it for you? We're going to go into that, right? We kind of touched on our property management footprint. We're going to go through Franklin's growth now and the future, and broadcasted live by a Franklin native. Clayton Hines was born and raised there, so that's pretty cool. And then we're going to go through some performers, which are really exciting. What we expect from you guys as attendees is we hope you take something from today and learn from the topics we're going over this evening. Please feel free to take notes, and if at any time during the webinar you have a question, please type it in the chat and make sure you type it in there so that we can have it answered for you. If there are questions that come up that you would like a little bit more in depth on, please write them down and we can circle back to them in a consultation. Both Clayton and I are super happy to get in that with you. And then please ready to write down any links that come up during the presentation or save them to your computer. And remember that a recording of this presentation along with the slides will be emailed to you all within 24 hours of its completion here. And then without further ado, I'm going to introduce my very close friend and colleague, Clayton Hines. It was great hanging out with you all last week, man, and I'm excited to present this together.
Yeah, no, it was so fun seeing the California team. When y'all come out here, it's always a good time, and I'm excited to go visit the Newport Beach office here in a couple of weeks and see y'all again in person and talk about Avondale with whoever wants to be a part of that in-person presentation. So if anybody's in the area, just a little sneak peek or preview, we will be talking again in person in a couple of weeks in our headquarters where Tasso is now. Just to run through a few of the things on here, brief introduction on myself before we get into what everybody came here for. Been a realtor since 2020. I was actually born in Birmingham, not Franklin, but we moved here before I was a year old. So I've spent over 30 years in the area now. Bought my first home here in September 2020, about 15 minutes from downtown Franklin. So I walk over there all the time myself, getting married at the beginning of next year, January 29th. And most of my hobbies, free time, like to cook a little bit, read, spend time with the dog, make sure I'm staying healthy too. So that covers all that. Thanks, Tasso. Getting into Avondale and what everybody's here for, you can see a little rendering there to get a little more information and visual representation of what it is that you'll see in the community. I know that was one of the best parts about Tasso and the team coming out. It is somewhere that when you see it, you get a different feel than the pictures. It's a very unique opportunity that we're bringing from the standard Marshall Reddick product. I think you're going to really, like, luxury is the word I would say is key here relative to a lot of the other properties that we have available on our site that we're listing, that we're helping people buy and manage. We are given a lot of different assistance, whether you need to buy, sell, get the property managed, we can help you out. And we do have the cottages here in Avondale starting at $575 for a 2-bedroom, 2.5 unit. And as Tasso mentioned earlier, they go up to 4 bedrooms. So those go all the way up to about $750 on the high end. And you can go to the next slide. All right, so if you can see there on a few of the things just that are really important, your walking distance to downtown Franklin, about a half hour at a leisurely stroll. The community does have bikes available for residents too, so you can unlock one of those and ride downtown in probably 10 minutes or less. Tasso and I did a little spin when he was at the community last week, so keep an eye out for that. I think our social media guy caught it on video, so I'm sure something will be coming up soon. To get to downtown, though, you've got a ton of great restaurants, ton of great retail options. It's when the weather's nice, like it so often is out there in California, you'll see people just strolling the street, friends, family, people visiting, you name it. Everybody's out just enjoying the atmosphere. It's a very welcoming city, so we get tons and tons of visitors, tons of tourists who end up liking it so much they sometimes move out here themselves. Great restaurants. We do year-round festivals. We've got the Pumpkin Fest coming up here next month, and then there'll be Dickens of a Christmas as we roll into the Christmas season. So those are fun. One of the big benefits to being in a location like where I am or where Avondale is, where you can walk downtown, is those big events draw huge crowds. They shut down all the streets to car traffic. So being somewhere where you can walk downtown is like an amenity in and of itself within the Franklin area. You can get up to the airport, which is on the northeast side of Nashville, in about 30 minutes or so without traffic, maybe a little longer depending on what time of the day you're going, which is great if you need to go on vacation, if your friends are visiting, family, if you travel a lot for work, you name it. Not too hard to get out of town from Avondale. You're also going to be zoned for both Williamson County Schools or Franklin Special School District, which are consistently among the highest rated education options. And that is, for those who aren't super familiar with the Nashville area, we talk about this a little more on the Nashville Focus webinars, but you've got Nashville and Davidson County, and then all of the surrounding counties, of course, around there. Williamson County, where Franklin, and Brentwood, where our office is located, those are kind of the premier areas for education specifically. The schools there are just absolutely stellar as far as public education goes. So you see a ton of families moving to this area, especially when they've got children in those grade school ages, which makes it great as a property owner You're going to likely get some great tenants who are going to hopefully stay and rent your property for a while because they want to maintain those school districts, keep their kids with their friends, all that good stuff. No state income tax, of course. Anybody on this has probably heard that about Tennessee before. One of the big benefits why we're seeing companies move here. Our most recent one from California that got announced not too long ago is In-N-Out. Double Drive is going to be just south of the Avondale Cottages, about 10 minutes away, and I'm sure they'll be opening up a In-N-Out there for us to all enjoy. So I think that covers this slide, Tasso. All right, this is awesome. So these are a few community pictures. I think that will give you a good representation, especially the top left and the top and the bottom right there. Right when you drive into the community, you kind of, as Tasso mentioned, it's surrounded by a residential neighborhood with a lot of single family homes, a lot of older, more historic homes, as well as some torn down and newly constructed multi-million-dollar properties. So you got a bit of a range outside of Avondale. When you come down Ribbon Lane to enter, this mural that you see in the top left there is on your right. Just a little touch from the developer of this project to kind of liven up, brighten up, give a little pop to the community and a great feel right when you come in. And they actually named the different floor plans after the flowers over there. So you've got the iris, lily, poppy, magnolia, dogwood, all represented there. So we'll get into the floor plans a little later. That's just a teaser, but something that all the residents seem to say sets this place apart from kind of your standard everyday community. The bottom right there is the heart of the community, the fire pit where residents can gather, enjoy when the weather's nice like it is today, a little get together around the fire. And then of course you've got some exterior shots of a few of the units. And I think we can move on to the next slide.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, Clayton,
Yeah, please.
kind of walking around in here, I remember seeing these pictures before we drove into the community, and it looked nice, but it's not until you actually get into the community and kind of walk around and get that really uppity neighborhood feel that you understand, you know, what it's like to be a resident there, and kind of how there's a different kind of appeal to it when you're kind of walking around. You see the nicer cars, the you know, families walk. It's just great to be kind of there and see it as well. So
yeah, I think that's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned it. So thanks for chiming in. I actually helped lease this community out when it was built in 2022, and it's been a very rewarding experience coming back years later as we're entering this for sale phase and seeing so many residents who still live there from the initial lease phase, talking about the sense of community, how much they love it there, you know, not wanting to move on, and just it's been a really cool thing to see. So I'm glad you got to experience that a little bit of yourself in person too.
Totally. Hop on to the next slide here. Some more photos.
Yeah. So obviously we just saw the exterior. This is going to be just to give you a little taste of the interior. All throughout, you're talking high-end finishes, stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, tall ceilings throughout. I mean, these are just absolutely jaw-dropping when you go in, not your standard townhome. I mean, these feel more like a home. The smaller units are around 1,600 square feet, give or take, about 50 depending on the exact floor plan, and the larger ones, the poppies, range from about 2,300 up to about 2,600, but they just feel so spacious. The main floors is what you're seeing here, other than that, those bedroom pictures on the right side, and it's a very open concept when you walk in. So you've got your entertainment space, your kitchen, your dining room area, a little bit of living room right when you walk in. So if you've got guests over, you've got companies, or everybody's hanging out in the family, you're all downstairs and it's just a lively atmosphere. And then you've got your living space upstairs as well. So really just open, large, and expansive feeling. It's one of the few places, I know the photos with real estate, they always make it look bigger than it is, but it's one of the few I've walked into in person and been like, wow, this feels large. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll start running through a couple of the floor plans here. So as Tasso mentioned earlier, we do have a few different options. you've got the poppy and lily on this screen, and we've got some 3D renderings of those just so you can kind of get an idea of what you would expect with those units, starting with the poppy, and that's our 4-bedroom model. You can see the carport right there, the main level that's got the kitchen, dining room, all of your entertainment space, and then the primary bedroom right there off the front with the laundry room on the back. And then you've got the rest of your living space upstairs with a few more bedrooms, shared bathrooms, and a little den area as well. The Lilies are going to have a 2-car attached garage, and you just can come in right through the garage on the back or enter through the front door. Either way, you get to that heart of the home, the entertainment space, the kitchen, the living room, where really all the action happens. Upstairs, you've got your bedrooms, the primary on the front, and then the other ones both on the back, with the laundry room upstairs, so super convenient for whoever's living there. I know when we were leasing them, and again, when we've been showing these on the public market recently, that's been something that a lot of people really like seeing, since these do come with all the appliances included as well. So little benefit there. And then that shows you kind of the square footage range on those two. Some more interior photos here to give you an idea of the finishes again. And we can skip over to the next slide, which is going to talk about our next 2 floor plans. The iris is very, very similar to the lily. So those you can almost view interchangeably in terms of the floor plans themselves. The main difference is the lilies are duplex units surrounding the courtyard, and the irises are part of the 7-plex larger building in the community. The Magnolia is our 2-bedroom offering, so the one starting at $575, a great entry point for anybody looking to get into the community at the more affordable price point. These are still going to be around 1,600 square feet. The layout on these is incredible too. You've got a 1-car attached garage, so you come in, you've still got the large open heart of the home feel downstairs, and then upstairs you've got 2 large bedrooms with a nice kind of flex space in between for most of them. So these kind of give you a secondary den away from where everybody is. So if you need a little separation in those, these can be great options. They still feel very spacious, and you still have that covered garage as well. And we can go on to the next slide, please, Tasso. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. I just want to throw in too, all of these are kind of built and I feel like designed to meet the requirements of a person prospecting it, right? So it kind of checks all the boxes. I feel like in every single one that we went in, it kind of feels like it's conveniently laid out so that my life could be made simple. So I always like to look at these properties in the eyes of a consumer. So I kind of look at them for myself when I'm touring and say, what do I like? What don't I like? Would I move in? Would I not move in? And every single one just kind of felt like it was laid out to the point where it made sense for me versus touring some properties where it might, just not make so much sense layout wise. So this is important because whether you're picking this up as an investor or a person occupying the property, as an investor, you want to make sure that, when you put this property up for rent, your tenant goes in there and they feel like it's able to meet their standards and needs and all of the boxes that they might have when searching for property. So as a person just walking through there, I did feel that for every single model, which was wonderful. Even the Magnolias, which started at the lower price point, I felt like when I walked in there, it flowed nicely to the point where I felt as if I could see myself as a tenant maybe submitting an application pretty quickly if this were in my price point, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, built in 2022, these have a modern open feel that so many people are looking for these days. You're not, obviously newer construction, you get to bake in not having to worry about maintenance quite as much as with an older property. But another large benefit is you don't kind of have that tighter floor plan that a lot of older properties may have. I mean, they're very welcoming, very inviting. We've got some 3D video tours that we've had taken for the marketing. So we can definitely send those out if anybody really wants to almost feel like they're walking through it themselves, because I think everyone will feel the same way you did when you went to check them out in person.
It just felt like the developer put a lot of thought into the way he, the way they structured these to, meet the appeal of the consumer, which I think is huge and super important and what I look at when choosing. So pretty cool.
Yes, definitely. I mean, maximizing square footage is big, and usability too. I mean, all the way to having a little like Lazy Susan underneath the corner cabinet in the kitchen that's a little harder to get to, you know, where it's tough to reach back there with whatever you have stored. I mean, they've got something that rotates nicely for all the tenants who are in there. So it really, the little touches, even when you're opening the cabinets and looking through everything, it feels like every time I go over there, I notice something new, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, not to bury the lead, the big amenity, the perk, the draw to this community that I saw all the way from leasing it years ago to today is proximity to downtown Franklin. Puckett's is a famous local restaurant. You can kind of get a feel for the sidewalks on the right side of the screen over there and what people are walking through. We've got a nice Italian restaurant that's open. The old historic Franklin Theater is one of my, you know, lovely spots to walk by. They light it up at night and it really just pops as you're walking down the street up there, and they'll show fun, you know, Christmas themed movies during the holidays, run classic films. Sometimes they get new releases. It's a small little, just like 2 or 3 screening room theaters. So this is not, you know, your multiple huge going to see 3D, you know, whatever the newest movie place is, but a great place to spend a little time and enjoy maybe a little throwback, a classic film, especially around the holiday season. The next slide, I think, also shows one of the other big gathering hubs of Franklin. This was kind of the last place we took Tasso, actually, I think, before he went back to California. So this is the factory at Franklin. Just doesn't really get to the inside, but would highly recommend, if you're not familiar with Franklin, just doing a quick Google, taking a look through their site. This was an old stoveworks factory, became, I think, a mattress producing facility for a little while, and then was bought and turned into a retail restaurant and shopping facility. So you've got dining, you've got restaurants, you've got a yoga studio that I go to is over here. You've got a little clay painting studio out towards the back. You've got, I mean, you name it, basically it's here. They've got an event hall. They do have a theater for plays as well that we like to attend from time to time, depending on what's showing. So this is almost like the heart of Franklin, it seems like these days, that's outside of downtown. This is just a couple minutes further from that square we were just looking at a second ago on the previous slide. So has turned into the local gathering hub. Yeah. Is that kind of the feel you got when you went over there, Tasso?
Absolutely. And if there are any Californians on the webinar, which I'm seeing there are a couple of clients that I know on here who are from California, if anybody has ever been to the Anaheim Packing District, it's like a little bit of a larger degree to that. So it's located in the nicer part of Anaheim, and that's exactly the feel I got when I walked through. Kind of like a more modern, trendy place where a lot of people gather. And I believe we did this Thursday night, Clayton, if I'm not mistaken, and it was busy. I was very surprised.
It's tough to find parking. They just started doing valet out front. I think they realized they could make a ton of money. So I'm still a little frugal. I like to go drive around until I find a parking spot myself. But yeah, it is. You go at the wrong time, it can be really tough. Franklin's kind of a, you know, it's a town that winds down early. So, you know, by like 9 o'clock most nights, it's pretty much cleared out. There's not much people there unless they're getting ice cream at Jenny's, the last place we stopped at, or something like that at the end of the night, a little nightcap. But when you go around, you know, peak lunch, peak dinner times, or on the weekends especially, it's a madhouse over there. There's a local farmers market they do out back every Thursday, every Saturday that you missed out on, and it fills the place up as well.
But really a good time, and just a real short way from the community that we're going over, and it's just a huge part of Franklin overall. So one of the major points, I think, for people who are looking to relocate to Tennessee or have their lives be in Tennessee, like, it's a huge thing. It's one of the big selling points, I think, for a person who's looking to maybe relocate, or great, like every other Sunday night place to go and hang out. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it's right across the street too from the Harlansdale Park, which was donated to the county by the Harlansdale family. We're talking hundreds of acres of farmland is directly across from this. and is going to stay that way. So for instance, this weekend they're hosting the Pilgrimage, a local music festival over there, but it's just I don't have a picture of it that quite does it justice, so I didn't include one, but it's the like pastoral landscape, and one of my favorite places. If I'm driving through and the sun's setting, I'll always kind of like drive slow, look over, sometimes pull off into the park itself and just sit there and watch it go over the hills. So right across from this too, and just a special place. So if you haven't been there in person and you do come out to Franklin, definitely stop at the factory, enjoy the sunset at Harlansdale, walk downtown. You will not be disappointed, I don't think, based on all the feedback we get from everybody who visits out here.
And a cool little Google search will help you understand kind of what it's like. If you just do
absolutely,
search, you'll see the inside, outside, all around. So pretty cool, Clayton. Thanks, man.
Yeah, so of course, as we mentioned earlier, it is exclusively brought to you, the Avondale Cottages listings by the Marshall Reddick team. You can see, as Tasso mentioned earlier, when we had all the teams, or most of them, I should say, on that slide, we're just down to the California office that Tasso is based out of there, and then the Nashville team myself, which, man, I can't wait for the new picture this year. We're going to have like twice as many people in that photo. We've been hiring a lot as this market's been growing pretty quickly, but a lot of rock stars in that photo, the property management team and a couple of the other agents. So those will be some of the people, as Tascho mentioned, that we talk about that help maintain your property and make sure that as your asset appreciates, which is just the absolute reason to be in Franklin, that it's being well maintained, so you don't have to worry not being there to do it all yourself.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch on that as well, property management is an important part of making sure that your investments perform to their absolute, max point. I mean, if you inefficiently manage the property, it could lead to all kinds of just different ways that you are experiencing unnecessary expenses and you're paying for repairs that might not be needed and missing out on possible renewals or increases or just all kinds of things. So I have had the pleasure of working with Michelle and her team, and just an excellent property management company overall. And for those of you who currently do have a foothold, whether it's in Clarksville or in Nashville, you guys know the team there and how their attention to detail really is a selling point for our investors looking to buy a second or third property.
Yeah, if anybody on the call is in, I mean, feel free to sing these praises too, because I'm sure you feel the same way. But the blonde lady, Michelle, there that you can see in the middle, I would go to war for her. She is just an absolute rock star and will be very, very on top of making sure your property is well maintained. She's one of my favorite people to work with here locally.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool.
In case the other property managers are listening, I love all you guys. Michelle's just in charge, so wanted to give her a little shout out.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of different options here for moving out. If you wanted to buy one of these properties to live in yourself, lease it out down the line, we can talk a little bit about the cost involved in that and what options you have for moving. If you want to go on to the next slide, Tasso.
Sure. Oops, sorry. There you go.
Oh, you're good. So just to give you an idea, because of the price point of these being a little high relative to the standard Marshall Reddick listing, I wanted to show just the current Franklin, Tennessee market update from about a week ago that we pulled this data. But as you can see, median sales price of $900,000 this last month and well over $1 million for the average sales price. So this is an area where 10 years ago, I just pulled these numbers for another client. The average sales price for a single family home was closer to $460,000, $470,000. So just to give you an idea of how quickly that has gone up, back in 2020, it was closer to $700,000. And then of course, this was an area that saw a huge boom with people migrating after around 2020 to 2021, 2022. So the floor is raised very quickly in Franklin. It's become a destination area where appreciation is really one of the, if not literally just the premier benefit to having property out here.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm getting a couple questions that are coming in, and we will take some time to answer them at the end of the webinar if you guys stick around. Just wanted to kind of quickly put that out there because I'm seeing a couple come in here.
Yeah, thank you. This is just showing you kind of median sales prices in some of these areas around Nashville that we do typically look at for rental properties, and giving you an idea of why you might want to look at Franklin versus some of our more, I would say, entry-level price points and affordable options in places like Smyrna, Mount Juliet, Lebanon, a little east of the screen, Murfreesboro, a little southeast of here. But just highlighting median sales prices to give people who aren't super familiar with the Nashville area a good idea of some of the best places you could possibly be within about half an hour of downtown.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thanks, Tasso. What do we have next? So we'll run through a little bit of the stats around Nashville itself, your median income being a little bit above the national average, median age a little bit lower, and actually 37, right around the age most people are buying homes, according to one of the recent Nashville seminars I went to that had somebody from the National Association of Realtors presenting statistics. You got a little over 2 million people in the metro area. So as far as the Southeast goes, one of our largest cities, and definitely the largest one within Tennessee. I think we've got one more slide with a couple more of the Nashville stats. Home ownership rate solid, around 2/3 there at 65%. Median home price a little lower in Nashville, of course, than Franklin at $420,000. And as Tasso mentioned earlier, we do look at unemployment in the markets that we target. So being below the national average on that is very important for you when you're looking at where you want to be. What is next? I think we've got a little bit about national rankings for Nashville, higher in the metro economic strength. Tech workers, I think, is another one you hit on earlier, Tasso. We've got Oracle moving out here. That's been a big driver of that up on the East Bank near the new Titans facility. A strong real estate market by a couple different metrics as well. The Batman building and the Cumberland there, just a really picturesque spot. I love that nighttime view of downtown. And I'm sure you got to visit Broadway, enjoy all the nightlife and the fun times down there. It's what seems to bring so many people to Nashville when they come. Everybody loves getting to downtown as part of their visit. Yeah,
I want to kind of talk about this a little bit and kind of how I spent a little bit of time in Nashville just recently. And I have been born and raised in California, grew up in the city of Downey, went to Los Alamitos High School, Cal State University, Long Beach. So kind of grew up borderline LA with OC, spent a lot of time in OC. So to be out in Nashville and hang out in the direct downtown, it was such a shock to see just how clean the city was, how upbeat and lively it was. Kind of had a little bit of a like young professional feel to it. I talked to a lot of people who were young professionals, just really making it happen out there, and it supported just a growth and I think a hustle mentality that you don't really see out in LA, which is really interesting. The people are there to work. It's a lot of blue collar. It's a lot of, let's get it done. But at the same time, it does hold that same kind of white collar tech movement that is essentially pushing the economy right now. So it was really interesting to see just how lively that city was, how, the commercial space was being used, how it was laid out. Going into the airport was a breeze. It was nothing like LAX. I feel like it was planned for efficiency, and all of the surrounding kind of suburbs we took some time to visit just kind of were this city and area where these people came out of to go into this really lively and upbeat city. It didn't remind me at all of LA. It really was kind of different. And I think that people are recognizing that. And as they do, they will continue to, notice that this is a cool place to be and there's a lot of growth here. And I do think that will allow for some appreciation for people to stay. So a very, very interesting market, a very beautiful city. And again, just kind of being boots on the ground there and looking around and paying attention. It's really cool to see. And I think that this is why some of these stats are coming out and why it is, the way it is as far as looking at it from an economic standpoint or perspective.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. Obviously, the tech companies moving out here. Healthcare is a huge industry, which I think we'll see on one of the upcoming slides. And that recent Nashville presentation that I was referencing a little while ago, they were talking about Alliance Bernstein as well coming down from New York. And it's funny, some of the stuff that you mentioned was the same thing their head of relocation was talking about, is their firm did a large search looking at cities. I think they started with 20 or 30, she said, all across the country, and just the welcoming feeling, the atmosphere around Nashville, that they could see their staff members, a little different maybe of a vibe, it sounds like, from LA to New York for the average person. And obviously, like, New York's got a little more of that hustle, and they felt that their staff from there would just seamlessly translate down here and really hit the ground running. So I just had to mention that. It was funny you said that, because I heard the same thing from people coming from New York, from LA. It's a similar feel, it seems. So very cool. Obviously, if anybody's a football fan, especially out there in LA, we are jealous of the Rams Stadium and your ability to host Super Bowls and avoid the cold weather. The Titans, as a lifelong fan, suffering fan, I should say, they're finally upgrading their stadium, which all of us locals are super excited about. Really should be a spectacular place once it's done, but a good show of the investment into the future of the city. I think the next slide is the one that gets into some of what's going on with our big employers here. Nissan moving their North American headquarters to the area way back when I was in high school. Oracle is mentioned on there. You've got quite a few different healthcare providers with HCA, Vanderbilt's big industry being healthcare. AT&T is that big building we saw on the little kind of nighttime screenshot of the river earlier. Dollar General with their regional headquarters here, Schneider Electric and Nissan. Those are the two that are closest to Avondale and Cool Springs, which is kind of the more commercial space district near Franklin. And then you've got more healthcare options a little further south. The new In-N-Out headquarters moving to Berry Farms, just 10 or 15 minutes from Avondale. Dave Ramsey opened his corporate headquarters down there too. So just a ton of different fields, which, as Tasha mentioned earlier, is one of the things we like to see when we're targeting markets, big picture. You don't want to be too, what's a good phrase for it? Like, have all your eggs in one basket. A little diversification of your employment options, provides a safety net if there's struggles in any one particular sector. Bridgestone, a big one too. They sponsor the local arena where the hockey team, the Predators, play. If anybody's a fan of those or has been to concerts in Nashville, you might have been to Bridgestone before.
And what a cool stadium, Clayton. We kind of stayed right off of Broadway at a really cool hotel. And when we made our way over to Broadway, everything was walking distance. When you're kind of staying as a guest, I suppose, or as like a visitor. So the days that I spent in Nashville, I had a really cool hotel just walking distance from all the Broadway and, the Music Row. And we passed by that stadium. It's huge. I was really surprised. And right behind that is a big music building. I believe it was called, help me out with this one.
You might be talking about the Ryman Auditorium as well, which is like an old church turned into an auditorium. Yeah, that is my, man, I mean, there's some very cool venues I've been to, some ones I want to go to, like the Sphere out in Las Vegas now, that are obviously, new and tech focused, but for historic places to see a show of some kind, the Ryman might be at the very top of my list, though admittedly I am a little biased. It's just it's a special place, great acoustics, and a very intimate setting. So if you're going to see some artist, whether it's a performer, we saw a comedy show there a couple of weeks ago, my fiance and I, or you're going to see a musician, I mean, it's a place where you get very heartfelt performances from whoever's up there, and kind of some crowd interaction, and just one of my favorite places in Nashville. Yeah.
And remember that this is not far at all from Franklin, Clayton. What is just
Correct.
about the drive?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going without traffic, you can get there in about 35 minutes or so. It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Much better than LA traffic, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I know locals do complain about it, but those of us who have experienced LA are a little more aware of how bad it could really be.
And for those of you who are just completely unfamiliar with Nashville, we did do a Nashville webinar where we did jump really deep in. Our Avondale communities are in Franklin, but downtown Franklin is huge, but just the convenience to downtown Nashville is also a great thing, right? Because it is such an upbeat city. There is one of the most prominent parts of that city are a street called Broadway and Music Row, where essentially they have, probably 20 to 25 bar restaurants that are 3 stories each one on both sides. So there's probably between 40 to 50 different 3-story restaurant bars on this strip that is just busy Monday through Sunday, every day of the week. And essentially what's going on is there's live music on every single floor and just people kind of coming in and out. And it kind of gives like a more, almost like a cleaner Vegas feel, if you will. Just kind of very busy, people trying good food, listening to music, and it was a really cool sight to see. And if you're on too, I would look up Broadway Music Row, just a very busy street where a lot of people go to kind of see when out in Nashville.
Yes, yeah, that is where everybody goes to have a good time, it seems. So this is a little further off of Broadway, which is closer to where it says kind of like downtown and Nashville on the bottom left of that map. But you can see the stadium campus where they're building the Titans facility. You can see the Oracle campus up there as well. I mean, this is just a good spot to be. East Nashville is kind of the trendy district where, your little hole in the wall type restaurants that'll just blow your mind are. So this is a really nice place to be as well.
That's a cool slide there with all the zoom ins on a couple of those good sites.
Yeah, a really nice rendering. We'll get into a couple of the pro formas here. I'll run through one. I'll throw it over to Tasso for another one. This is our largest floor plan, the 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath for 2,600 just about unit. What we really like to see on these is that we've got a very accurate underwriting since this is a Marshall Reddick listing. So we're really confident on the numbers here between your taxes, your insurance, all that good stuff, down to the monthly income you'll be making. I think if you're looking at Avondale, we've got these cash flowing positively, so that's a big win with our preferred lender at that 5.25% interest rate. But really down there at the bottom with the colored text, you can see that 15-year projected profit. And I think that's what we're looking at. The appreciation just being phenomenal on these properties is truly what you're looking at here. I mean, there's no guarantees in life, right? Death and taxes. The appreciation in Franklin is close to being on that list. You're going to do well here, I think. If you want to go to the next one, Tasso, and run through it, I think you've got an Iris or a Lily to talk about.
Thanks, Clayton. Yeah. And again, I mean, this is part of my job as an advisor is to go through these pro formas and look through them and speak with my clients on what I believe makes most financial sense for them. On one of these smaller units in the 599 price point, 600,000, your standard 30% down, right? No initial repair cost, being that these are newer construction and they are all tenant occupied. Closing costs just at 2.1. On something like this, some of the smaller price point Avondale communities, you're just shy of 200,000 as a down payment. But look at the rent. I mean, for the clients in here who have worked with Marshall Reddick in the past to purchase new constructions, we're looking at anywhere between 14 and 1,900. Sometimes on some of the luxe properties that we have in the $300,000, $100,000 price points, you're getting rents just half of this essentially. These rents are in the 3,100 points, and these are secured rents with tenants in place on year-long leases. When you purchase these properties, you're experiencing the cash flow month one. The cash on cash on this one specifically is a good cash on cash. You might be able to secure something with a little bit more of a cash on cash return, but the appreciation on these properties is what you're betting on. These are luxury properties in a fantastic neighborhood with price points just through the roof in the single family communities all around it. So you're betting more on long-term appreciation with these properties and overall quality rather than being able to bang out a bunch of cash flow on these. They are a little bit higher in price point and it needs a little bit more of a down payment. But for the investor looking to kind of diversify into something a little bit more long-term, these are absolutely it. As a starter property, I would highly suggest these because they're extremely easy to manage and they are very low risk in a sense that they are meant for the tenant who is a little bit higher in price point. They're taking a little bit better care of it. They are built in 2022, so your expected variable cost of maintenance is in the 5% range versus what we're seeing on resales being between 8 and 10. So we're projecting and hoping for very little maintenance and vacancy being 0% in your first year, unless you receive some sort of early termination, in which case you'd receive you'd be getting a fee from the tenant. But essentially being able to receive the cash flow we're showing you on the performance in the first month after close, tenant occupied properties with high quality tenants in place. So an interesting to look at and consider.
I definitely want to, you mentioned something that buried the lead a little bit. I don't know that we said earlier, but being tenant occupied is one of the great things here since these are currently leased out. So you don't have to worry about initial vacancy. We had one of the advisors fly out the week before you did, Vince Tomich, if anybody on the call has worked with him. And he was so wowed by this. He's got a couple clients that have made contracts or are under contract on a couple of properties out here already and is talking to some more. I mean, it's the type of place where when you see it in person, you're so wowed that you've got to be a part of it, and we've got limited availability on these too. So this is kind of a great time to act once the whole community has been converted from a exclusively for lease community to a for sale community, and some of the homes are owner occupied and the HOA kicks in. There will be a limit to 15 of these that can be leased long term. So this is a great time to kind of secure your spot and get in on one of these, continue with the current tenants, don't have to worry about the vacancy, and then you've just got a long-term, like Tasso said, safe bet either to round out your portfolio if you've got a lot of high cash flow properties already and you want one that's really going to appreciate for a great exchange down the line, or a good safe bet to start out because you're not going to have the floor fall out from under you in 10 years. So yeah, thanks, Tasso.
Thanks, Clayton. And we're approaching time here. We'll try to keep it in, close it out here in 3 minutes. Again, we're Marshall Reddick. Our property management services are fantastic. I'm in charge of a lot of our business development, meaning I do speak with a lot of our new owners and give them all of this information. But essentially in the state of Tennessee, our management fee for a townhome is 9% of 1 month's rent. So on that $3,100 to manage this property would be just roughly $279 to $300 a month on your overall take, which is implemented into that pro forma and is factored into your cash flow. So we can go over all of those details as to what it would look like to actually have these under management and have a team manage it for you. And all of this can be found on our website. Want more info as far as any market that we do business in? All of this info is written by our team here, and they're called market data packets, where we go in depth on the specific market, and they're fantastic reads. They really are, and they truly get into the very specifics of the communities and of the cities. So please go onto our website and check out our market data packets. They are full of information. What are customers saying? Please also take time to look at our reviews. We take a lot of pride in doing good work, and it reflects in our online presence. So when you are researching a market, take the time to go and look at our reviews in those markets. They tend to be between 4 and 5 stars. And then please follow us on all our socials. Clayton and I have some cool stuff coming up on the Avondale community that we took some time to film. And we're constantly posting new updates and opportunities on there. So Facebook, we do have a presence on Meetup, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Yelp. What you can expect from a consultation with an advisor, Clayton and myself will essentially go over your why. We're going to go over your goal setting. We're going to go over your how. We're going to evaluate options, get you in touch with a lender, and see what you qualify for. We will go over when, decide on time frames, how soon or how far down the road you want to get into something. What, we will set your criteria. Where, we will identify the markets. And who, we will introduce you to all of the key players to get this done, between lenders, advisors, real estate agents, property management staff, the whole 9 yards, accounting team, so that you can feel completely confident that your investment property is in fantastic hands. And then again, a consultation request can be handled by Clayton or myself, and we will likely be hosting it together for these Avondale properties. Closing it out here, everyone, I'm going to kind of take some time to go over some questions that came in, but other than that, we want to thank you guys so much for logging on today, and we look forward to hearing from you and getting feedback on these communities and speaking more to them. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed, and reach out to us. We'd love to give you a little more in-depth information and answer any specific questions you have in a one-on-one meeting or two-on-one.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to kind of hop into a couple of questions here. Clayton, the Franklin guy.
Yeah, the questions aren't showing on my end, so if you want to read out to me, I'm happy to answer.
Hey, Ronaldo, thanks so much for putting in your question. Were these originally built as for sale townhouses? Clayton, I'll let you touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, great question, Ronaldo. These were originally leased back in 2022. They were exclusively offered for lease, so this is the very first time the community is being offered for sale. Great question.
Okay, thank you so much. Chase, are these properties all on a 1-year lease, or do tenants have month-to-month leases in place?
The leases do.
Clayton, you cut out there, buddy. Can you hear me? Hello? I don't know.
So some of them are on lease expirations or on 1-year leases. Some of the tenants are coming to we're primarily offering to owner occupants. And then for our investors, we're looking at ones with longer leases, so you can be secure for a more predictable timeline.
Thank you, Clayton. Are we able to structure our offer creatively and or submit under? We can certainly discuss that. One of the cool things about these properties are that the developers are offering incentives to essentially meet qualifications for what's called a rate buy down. And what we do is we apply that towards the interest rate to essentially have the property cash flow. So it's really amazing to see what a lower interest rate can do opposed to a lower purchase price. So why don't we meet in a consult and kind of discuss that further, and I'll kind of let you know how that works and essentially what the developer is looking for in regards to placing an offer. We're going to do 2 more here, and then I'm going to email a couple of these back. Hi, Peter. Thank you. How long has your property management team been in business? I believe that the Nashville office has been in place for just about 7 years, but I will go ahead and confirm that. Marshall Reddick has been in business since '79. However, the property management was put into effect a little bit later. So I will find out the exact answer on when Clarksville, before Nashville, Clarksville was in place a lot longer. So thank you for that. I will go ahead and check. And then.
Yes, and I believe you're close in that time frame. I might be a year or 2 off, but that does sound accurate from what I heard from the Clarksville staff when I first met them. Since you're right, they have been around a little longer than the Nashville team. And then for this specific property, the manager's been in place for years now, speaking to a lot of the current tenants. They've had good things to say. And, to piggyback on your question about the offers, you'll certainly be able to get an inspection, discuss repairs, and hopefully go into these with all of your, vacancy costs or maintenance costs, I should say, taken care of on the front end.
Yeah, and what's really cool to kind of touch on that, and I'm seeing that the last two questions we're going to actually have to answer these to the people who ask them themselves. So we'll kind of go into that privately. But yeah, the property management team has a lot of information on these units. It's a really smooth transition for us. So, you know, not to say that it's not if you're buying something on a newer or a different builder, but you know, we've been doing so much homework on these property specific that the transition to property management will be very smooth, right? And on your closing day, you'll essentially be ready to go, put into our system so that you can experience the full management transition, which is a huge part of all of this, essentially. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Clayton. Again, my name is Tasso. Work very close with Clayton Hines on these projects with our, VPs and other advisors in the office. So we're looking forward to hearing from you all after we give some phone calls out, and we'll catch you all very soon. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
thanks everybody. Appreciate y'all coming in. Have a great evening.